for me, please?
Yes, hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
I'm in here yet.
14.
Welcome to Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons, along with an Evansville broadcasting personality from a little while back. Cheryl White is with us today. How are you, Cheryl?
I am great. Thank you for inviting me.
When you came in and I heard your voice, I got a little chill because I thought, oh, it's Cheryl White. It's still Cheryl White. You know, I don't know why your voice would have changed, but anyway, it's good to have you here.
Thanks. You know, people always put my name as if it were one word, Cheryl White.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had a last name, actually. I just thought it was Cheryl White. So anyway, tell me about you. And I'm going to give context here because we have a lot of listeners and viewers here who do remember, no offense, but there are many young ones who don't even know about like radio, like free radio.
Oh, I know.
Where you can turn it on.
Terrestrial radio,
and
that's
so
what we call it.
Cheryl, I first heard Cheryl on WROZ, which was a country radio station here in Evansville for many years. And then we crossed paths. I was an intern at WIKY in about 1985, and you were doing air work, and I guess you always had a side duty in a radio station, either did sales or production or something like that, right?
We all do production.
Yeah, you had to, wasn't just talking on the radio and introducing the tunes. Then you turned up on Channel 7. I did. Doing news and some weather for a period of time, and then you disappeared. So we're going to fill in that gap because then you moved onward and upward. So start out. So where'd you grow up, Cheryl?
I grew up right here on the southeast side.
Okay. So did you go to Bosse or Harrison?
I went to Fairlawn Grade School, Bosse High School.
All right. And what got you into the radio thing?
Well, I went to ISUE. It was then, Indiana State University, Evansville. And I was taking a broadcasting course. I don't think they even call it that anymore. And we had a student advisor. And his name was Michael Gilland. And he said, we have an opening at WROZ for anyone who would like to apply. So I did. And I was hired by Red Walker. And I still called him Mr. Walker.
That's nice.
Yeah.
1970. So that everybody still had manners back then. You know, so.
I actually got a call from his daughter when I was living in Atlanta. She tracked me down when he passed away and just wanted me to know that he had always thought so much of me, and that meant so much to me.
I'm sure, yeah. And, of course, WROZ at that time was an AM station, AM 1400, right? Yeah. And you all had your studio over the Farmer's Daughter on Main Street. You could look down.
Look straight down Main Street.
And a thrill, as when I was younger, was to look up there and have the radio on in the car and say, oh, there's Cheryl White. I can hear it. I see her up there in the window
someone
right now.
Else. You're right.
What was that like, working over the Farmer's Daughter? You're smelling the fried chicken and the Harvard beets all day.
Come on, the patty melts were famous. Well, that was great, and Xing Li was right down the street, so it was Xing Li, right?
Xing Li, Chinese restaurant.
And so between the two, that's how we fed ourselves all the time. But it was great because you had that view down the walkway. People would come by and wave all the time. It was great. I loved working there, and I loved all the people there too.
And you're very young, like 17, 18 years old.
I was 17 when I started there.
So was that like a cool job to have among your friends? You know, they're like, well, Cheryl's on the radio.
Yeah, everybody wanted to come up, see what was going on. How does it really work, Of course, back in those days, we actually played records.
Right.
Which,
what are those?
That's ancient history.
They were 45s, a little thing with a big hole and all of that. You had to cue them up. And
everything had a cue burn because you queued them up so many times that they had a burn at the very beginning.
Went back and forth. So when you were on the radio, and Rosie was always country, right? They never changed formats, or did they change?
No, while I was there,
no. Okay. I remember a show, and you'll cringe, but I got to hear the particulars here. There was a program called Rosie Bingo. And again,
that was before me.
I thought I remember hearing you call it, though.
Oh, I don't know.
The next number is but they played bingo on the radio.
If I did, I don't remember. Yeah. And I'm not surprised because that was a long time ago.
You might have blotted that out of your memory. But they did different contests and things like that. People would call in.
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah. And so you worked there, and there were some characters that worked on WROZ too, yes?
Yeah. Remember, we had the color of the day.
Yeah.
So if you called in and guessed the color, and I hate to admit it, I was late a lot.
Late to work?
Well, late to work.
I didn't think you were allowed to be late in broadcasting.
Well, you're not.
Much.
And Tiny worked the morning show, Tiny Hughes, and I worked middays. And so I would be late, and he would call, and he'd say, if you can guess the color of the day, you could be 15 minutes late. And one day I got it right. And he was... so that didn't go over well. I was never late again. And now I'm always early.
Right. You were here an hour early, actually, for the podcast.
An hour early.
I appreciate that. I was still in the shower, by the way, when I got that email. I came out like, what is she doing there already?
I don't know what I was thinking.
So you mentioned Tiny Hughes, and he was another institution in Evansville radio at that time. Were you two pretty close working together? He seemed like a really colorful and good guy.
He was very colorful, and he was a really nice man, and I really loved him very much. He was the second PD I worked with at WROZ. The first one was a man named Jackie Gant, who left town under unsavory circumstances. And then Tiny came in from Ann Arbor, Michigan. He had been working there, although he is from this area, or was. He was a Kentucky colonel. And he and I, we just hit it off. He was such a nice guy. We hung out. He came to my house. I was at his house and met,
And he was a great big guy.
Big man.
Which was surprising to me because I'd always heard him on the radio. And then when I was working at the radio station and saw Tiny, it's like, well, Tiny's not tiny at all.
No,
Tiny's a big man,
That's the way it is for a lot of people, though. They get those nicknames that are the opposite of what they really are.
Yeah.
But he was, very large man. And it was just devastating when he passed away.
Yeah, and kind of dramatically, they had a heart attack and drove into a building downtown, wasn't it? There on 2nd and Main Street.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those broadcast stories, in Evansville that you hear from time to time. So you were on WROZ for a while. And then you sprouted up on television over on Channel 7 for a while.
Well, I went to WIKY.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, because they were in the same building at that time.
Right, eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, because we were over the Farmer's Daughter to start, then we moved into the WIKY building when we were purchased, the station was. And then, I went over to Channel 7 and worked with Randy Moore.
Yeah, an alum here.
I know.
And at 25 and at 7, one of the triple baggers in the group here that work all the stations.
Right.
And so what was your role there? I know you did some reporting. You did weather. I remember that, too. You'd fill in on weather every now and then.
My big job. I was the medical reporter, and I did morning news, and I also filled in on weather. But my big job was when they filmed A League of Their Own here. And it was my responsibility to come up with a new story 5 days a week to cover the shooting of that movie.
Right. And if you didn't cover Madonna, what did you come up with? Were you doing features, sidebars? I mean, it was all features and sidebars.
It got down to the point that I actually interviewed the cow that was featured in was it the Lukash Dairy?
That's right.
Yeah. I actually went to the farm. And they brought out the calf that was in the scene. That was my story for the day.
St. Philip, right? Up there on the hill. So.
I mean, you run out of leads at some point.
Yeah. Were you an extra in the movie? Like, did you put the costume on that Saturday that they needed to fill the stadium? Do you remember that?
But my dad did. And he went many times. He enjoyed it so much. And he would always say, I played the part of the farmer in the stands. Because they always put my dad in overalls and sat him up in the stands.
And a hat. Well, good for him. So he's immortalized in a league of their own, as all of us are.
We haven't really been able to find him. We've actually
slow it down frame by frame.
We've done that.
Yeah.
I think he ended up on the cutting room floor, but he enjoyed it.
That's how it's a business of broken hearts.
I know.
So that was kind of an experience for a lot of people too, and it's hard to believe that's been over 30 years ago that was going on. And I remember I was fairly new here at Channel 14 doing weather remotes from time to time down there. And their publicist was not particularly easy to work with, which was different. You would think a publicist would do everything.
Right.
And, of course, we all wanted Madonna, and she wasn't doing it. And this guy would get you anybody else, and that was fine. I mean, I didn't really, wasn't looking either way. And then it wound up, Madonna came on the weather with me, and they hadn't told me.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, and Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. So that was my claim to fame. A clip ran on Oprah, so that was my big moment in the sun.
Yes.
But you actually moved to legitimate, big-time radio and media, right? What was the path from Channel 7 then to Atlanta?
Well, I moved there in '94, and I started working in traffic. So I'd never done traffic reporting before, and actually my sense of direction's pretty bad. But I could read a map, and that was really helpful. And then we actually used paper maps.
Yeah. Were you in a helicopter? Or
no, ground-based.
Yeah.
No. And so I started working at the Traffic Command Center and moved on then to television. But before I did that, we had the Olympics in Atlanta.
Right, 96, sure.
In 96. So I was doing Olympic traffic from the GDOT Traffic Command Center.
Right.
So every day when you went in, you drove in, you had to have your car checked with the bomb detectors under the car and go through because Atlanta was locked down in many ways.
Sure, and then after the thing happened at, Millennium Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the details other than there was an explosion and it was awful.
Yeah, it was Centennial Olympic Park, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And a man I worked with was the one, I don't know if you remember the footage of the second explosion, and he and his wife were walking out of the building, and you just see his hair flying back. Well, he was a DJ in Atlanta.
Yeah. So you spent a lot of time then in Atlanta, right? At same station, or did you move around a little bit?
Well, I worked in traffic first, and then I was hired by Fox 5, which is a Fox O&O owned and operated station in Atlanta. I worked there for 14 years. So I worked on Good Day Atlanta. And I was traffic, weather. I went on actually because I was doing so much weather. I earned my broadcast meteorology degree from Mississippi State.
Sure. So you're on TV then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could get you back on our short list up here for freelancers and,
I'm available.
Like that. Did you enjoy doing the weather in Atlanta?
I love doing weather. Weather's always traffic and weather. When you think about it, you're actually doing something that is fun for you, but it's also really important. I mean, you're actually saving lives.
And people are turning to us for something they really want to hear.
And they need to hear.
Yeah. And whereas in news and that, you never know for sure. I mean, you can put a story out there and somebody may or may not care. But weather, usually you got people caring, and certainly traffic if you're trying to drive around and all that.
Yeah. And so you're doing something that's meaningful, but it's also fulfilling for us, right?
So how did big time television compare to smaller time here in the tri-state for you?
You know what I found out?
What'd you find out?
It's all the same.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard that. I've never tested the theory, but
it's all the same. Yeah, it really is. It's just bigger.
Sure.
There are more people working.
And more expensive to live, of course, in Atlanta.
Well, there's that.
Right?
But really, what we do doesn't change.
Yeah. So then you finish up there. Now you're in more of a consulting role, and you're working in that realm, right? So
no, I'm on the air.
Or you're still on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now when I read, it said that you do radio programming for financial services and advisors and stuff. So I couldn't quite connect all those dots.
Well, what I do is I work for it's a tech-based company that provides financial software platforms for financial advisors. But they bought a media company, and I was working for that company. And when they bought the company, I went along with it. And what I do is write and co-host radio shows that air on radio stations across the country.
Okay, for this financial technical
company.
Services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now it makes sense.
Yep.
See, I needed you to tell me that. and I, because when I read it first, I thought, but I thought she's still on the air. So you still are on the air.
I am.
All over the place then. So what kind of feedback do you get then, now that you have a national exposure?
In what way?
Well, I mean, do you hear from people like you did when you were?
No, it's a little different.
It gets more institutional, right? I mean, you would really give feedback through just an informational program, whereas if you were when you did, certainly on Rosie and when you were on some of these other programs, you would hear from your audience more.
Oh, I know. I have a whole box of letters and things that I received from people over the years. I mean, that was great. And I kept them all because they are special to you. I mean, when you make a connection with people, you know that you're doing something right. And that's the way I feel with this position that I'm in now. If you'll excuse me, I'll go on a little bit of a soapbox.
No, you go right ahead. So, our soapbox is always open here. Inside Look.
When I left Atlanta, I left because my husband at the time was not in good health, and he wanted to move back to Florida, where he was from. So we left and went to Florida, and then he passed away. And so when that happened, things just weren't set up, right? Financially weren't set up.
Right.
So when someone I had known from Atlanta, he had tried to hire me over the years, but I was happy doing what I was doing. But he called me one more time and he said, "Hey, we have an opening. Are you interested?" I said, "Today I am." And it was working with financial advisors. So to me, it was sort of a cause, because I think many women are unprepared. Women live longer than men. Sorry.
Right. No, it's fact.
Typically. And so making sure that not only women, but everyone is financially prepared for the future. Mm-hmm. I can't make sure of it, but I can make sure to give them as much information as possible through these financial advisors.
Sure.
So that they're better prepared.
Yeah. So it's an extension of weather and traffic. You're giving people what they need to know and what they should know.
I hope.
So you're still helping. You're making a difference.
Yeah, well,
right?
That's important to me.
So you're based now back in Evansville, correct?
Yep.
And then you travel from that. I mean, getting this date with you was kind of a trick because you're all over the place. So where do you actually record and do your production then for these programs? You have to go down to Atlanta to do that? Or?
No, I have a studio in my home.
Okay.
And it's actually a remote-based company.
Yeah.
So all of the media, we work from our homes, and then we hook up once a month in Atlanta. That's our hub. And so I'll fly into Atlanta once a month and meet with everyone. But yeah, I work from home. So I have built a studio, Yeah. Anyone needs acoustic panels, I have a hack.
I've talked to several radio people. I've talked to Dennis John Bailey and Diane Douglas over at WIKY, Aaron Santini. I'd like to talk to Sam Yates. He's on a beach somewhere in Florida too, I believe. All of them, well, maybe not all of them, but most of them do side work where they have a studio at home. And like Dennis is her over the country. I know Sam Yates is too. Did that ever, before this gig, did you ever do that? Like, were you the voice of,
No.
Showcase Mattress West or anything like that?
No, I work with a guy though, and he is in a lot of Tyler Perry stuff. He's usually the voice of the newscaster or something.
Okay. Right.
But you'll see him in a lot of hear him in a lot of animated features. He does so much of that. But no, I didn't. But you know what I did do? I covered a hurricane. I got a call from a national network asking if I could cover, since I was in Florida, cover a hurricane. And that was really fun, interesting, challenging, and a little frightening toward the end. Yeah. But that was great.
Was that a one and done for you then, or do you plan to go back and cover more hurricanes if
Let me tell you, that was, it was really fun. It's one of those things where you're doing reports you hang up from one, you'll do a 2 or 3 minute interview with one station in Los Angeles and hang up and immediately redial, and you're doing something in North Dakota.
Right.
I mean,
And was this television or radio?
Radio.
Okay. So you got somebody coordinating and they cram them in. Do you remember, whereabouts were you in Florida? Or do you remember the storm in particular?
I'm trying to remember the name of the storm. As soon as we moved to Cocoa Beach, we were run out 3 times in a row. And seems like every time we left, the storm chased us. I'd head up toward South Carolina, and it would go to South Carolina, even though it was saying it was going to go off the Gulf side, right? So it was one of those 3, and it would have been 5 years ago.
Okay. So around the pandemic and all that stuff. I can't remember
it was right.
my storm names either. It's funny. I go to conferences, and these meteorologists that work in Florida and in the tropical belt, they rattle off stats on
I know.
all of them by name and strength and barometric pressure and all that. I can't remember that stuff.
I know.
But what an interesting side thing from what your normal gig is to
that was fun. Yeah.
What do you think the craziest thing is that's happening in your whole broadcast career?
Ooh,
do you
good
remember?
Question. craziest thing. Give me a moment to mull that over. I was thinking back when you were talking about A League of Their Own when I met Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
That wasn't crazy, but I was kind of crazy about him. Yeah. And I remember he's very tall.
Yeah, he's like my height. He's like 6'4" or so.
So I'm wearing tennis shoes because it's out on the field. Right. It's Bossy Field. And when I did the interview, I'm holding the mic up so high and I'm looking up at him like, I love you so much, I adore you. But really, it was just because I had to get the mic up there and I'm trying to, not look up his nose. But anyway, that was a good story. Crazy thing. Well, I did a lot of crazy things. Okay, so if there was ever an event and they needed someone to do something physical, I would do it. Didn't matter what it was. So there was some game show that came to town. Don't remember the name. Somebody will. And let me know if you remember it.
Was this Evansville?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was Anything Goes
Anything Goes. I remember that. Yes, Celebrity Anything Goes.
Yeah.
I got roped into a couple of those, too. What did you have to do?
I was the giant mushroom. What were you?
Well, I remember I had to shuck corn. We were against the time, and it was like squirrel corn. It was dried out.
Right.
And I didn't. I was young and stupid. I didn't think, well, I don't need to put gloves on, so I'm doing this. And I was bleeding both sides. It's like, okay, maybe not so much. But yeah, they used to do those in the parking lot of the mall. It'd be like on a Sunday, and you go out, there'd be like a team from Channel 25, one from 14, one from 7, and you do all these crazy things. It'd slime you, and it was strange. Why did we do that? What was the push? I don't know.
Somebody asked, and we did it.
That's true. Well, that's kind of how the business is,
I stayed in a giant shopping cart for 3 days to raise money for the food bank.
Okay.
Yeah. And giant. I mean, I had to climb a ladder to get in that.
Was it warm, wet? Was that big Schnucks one that they used to drive in
but
parades?
It was cold.
Yeah.
All the pictures, I'm wearing a big winter coat.
You were allowed to take a sleeping bag into the shopping cart and a gallon of milk or whatever else you could fit in there.
Craziest thing may have been the paddle boat race. I mean, I was in a harness race at Audubon Raceway.
Midwest Raceway.
And, I won.
How did you land that one? That seems like it'd be kind of dangerous,
Back then, they did that kind of stuff, and you were so
expendable.
I guess, right?
Yeah.
But Tiny was in it. I was in it. And a bunch of other local
Tiny rode
celebrities.
Was a harness.
Yes, yes. And
that horse had his work cut out for him, didn't he?
I got this beautiful gray, and she was fast, and they said, now just flick, just gently flick.
Yeah, had that whip.
And all I did was, I'm telling you, I barely touched her, and she went flying. So I have the picture of me with my giant roses, at the end. So that was great. But the paddle boat race, that was the crazy one.
I'm thinking, okay, so tell me about the paddle boat race, but I want to come back to the harness race too. Let's do the harness race first.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're in there, you don't have seatbelt on, right? I mean, how do you?
I don't think so.
So it's kind of awkward because you're kind of up. And
yes,
for
your
our
feet
listeners,
are up.
Your feet are kind of up, and you've got your arms above you, and they pace those horses first, so they all have their nose on the pace car.
Right.
Drive it around, then that car blows out, and then they take off.
And then this
is when you start your flicking.
Mm-hmm.
So how close are you to the one next door? Like is it
pretty
like Ben-Hur?
Close.
Where you knock off a wheel or something?
Not that close, but it was pretty close because. Remember, we don't know anything about this.
Yeah, you're just for a good cause.
Right? And right. I don't know how to do this. I'm trusting that the horse does.
How'd you make it stop?
Well, you just pull back on the
and then it
reins. Those horses know exactly what to do.
Yeah, they've been to a few races.
Right.
Before,
so you could pretty well trust that they know when to go, when to stop, and
right. So
but
you won. How did Tiny Hughes do?
I did. I'm not sure, but I don't think he did all that well in that particular. He made it to the finish line.
He did. Okay.
Yes, he did.
I didn't know if there was a technical, because there was a thing in harness racing. If the horse broke its stride, then you were out. Do you remember that?
See, you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, I had been a few times to Midwest. It was Midwest Raceway. It was right over there. You went over the Henderson Bridge.
I thought it was Audubon Raceway, but yeah.
Audubon Raceway, that's what it was, sure.
Yeah, it was right across the bridge.
Yeah, and you turned right, and it was kind of back by the river.
Yeah,
I had been there 2 or 3 times. But I think if the horse broke its gait, because they had, it had to, they were trotters, right? So they tuk, but if it got out of sync, you were scratched, and then you were out. But anyway, paddle boat race. I didn't mean to sidetrack
before we go there,
okay.
we went to Ellis Park every year at WROZ.
Oh, you didn't actually ride on the back of a real horse.
No.
Okay.
But we sponsored a race, the WROZ race. Sure. And so we all have, I have all my photographs. We all would go out and stand with the winning jockey. Yep. And present the roses at the end of the race.
Oh, I get it. The Rosy Rose.
Right.
Yeah. See, this is why I wouldn't have made it in marketing.
So what's great is you see my hair. My transformation over the years. It's fascinating. I should do one of those flip books.
Did you have really long hair for a while, and then it got shorter and shorter, or was it the other way around? I can't remember.
I could sit on my hair.
Yeah.
For when I first started, and then that happened again later on. But in between, yes, I would cut it short, and then it'd be long. And
interesting. Tell me about the paddle boat race.
Okay, so the paddle boat race. They said, I don't remember how this all transpired, but they said, "Would you like to be in the paddle boat race?" And I went there because it's a pre-race. One of those before the big one. And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about boating, and sure." So
now give us a setup. Where is this? Is this like in conjunction with Thunder on the Ohio?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so you're not talking paddle boat like
no.
you paddle. You're talking about like the big ones.
Yes.
The hydroplanes.
Yes. Except that this one was the Bassmeyer boat.
Right.
And it had the paddles.
Okay.
So it had 2 giant paddle wheels.
Right.
And wooden paddles at that. So they had retired that boat, right? I mean, come on. It was probably,
We'll let the radio people drive it.
Right. How unsafe could it be? So they teach you how to start the engines. It had twin Honda 10cc engines, if I'm thinking back correctly. And so my team taught me how to start the engines so that when the flag dropped, I would already be moving and would cross the line as the flag dropped.
Right.
Perfect. I'm on it. Right? I'm on it. So I'm out there. I get everything started, and the engines die just as the flags dropped.
Oh.
And it was like, this is not happening to me. I am not going to be sitting here. So I start the engines, and I floored it. So as I'm going around, I think it was turn 2, the paddles started flying off the wheels.
Right. And so now you're in big trouble.
It's in the videos. Yeah. You can see the paddles start, because it was a big paddle wheel, but then there were small paddles all the way around,
well, sure.
as I recall. So they start flying off. You would think another person would have slowed down. But at this point...
Oh, no, they got to win the race.
You might have noticed it was slightly competitive. And so I just kept going and ended up in the money.
How'd you end up in the money?
In 8th place.
8th place. Well,
didn't win, but I made it to the finish line, and...
A testament to the resolve of Cheryl White.
Never give up, never surrender.
Never give up. I never realized you'd done so much stuff. You've had a packed career here.
Hot air ballooning. And I did that every year at the Freedom Festival.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. They had the balloon globe. That was out at USI or ISUE back
Well, one
then.
year we lifted off from Lawndale parking lot.
Yeah. And drifted to...
wherever.
Either Philpott or Jasper, right? Depending on which way the wind was blowing.
That's right, wherever.
What was that sensation like for him? Were you broadcasting up there? Or did you have to do something, or did you just
as long as you can. I mean, a lot of times you lose, signal coverage. But, it's like you're part of the wind. So you don't really feel the wind as much as just feel like you're moving with it. You're in the current with it. And it's wonderful. It's
quiet, other than when they turn the burner on, right?
Yeah.
But if you're just drifting, you must be able to hear all the stuff down on the ground, or maybe not. Maybe it's up high
the dogs chase you a lot. They chase the shadow of the balloon.
Yeah, they can hear it and see it up there too.
Yeah, I wanted to become a hot air balloon pilot for a long time.
Yeah,
because it's magical, really.
Yeah. So what's holding you back now? I mean, you've done the harness racing, you've done the paddle racing. Why not? Why not get a hot air balloon?
Yeah, I guess I could.
Yeah, and then we'll do another podcast on that. We'll have you fly in here next time. Cheryl, it's been great catching up. I didn't realize.
Are we done already?
No, we're not. We can go as long as you
going.
like. Tell me one more. Tell me a good one.
Not
that those weren't, but
what else happened after that? I did the telethons for many years for the Arthritis Foundation. That was another thing I was really it didn't do it just because it was a telethon, but because I really believed in raising money for the Arthritis Foundation. Had a lot of that in my family, and so that was important. I guess you see a theme.
Yeah.
What else? In Atlanta was great. You met all the celebrities came into our show because it was in Atlanta. So we met everyone. But I can say that probably the people that made the biggest impression on me were President Carter and Rosalind Carter, the First Lady. They were such gentle people.
They seemed like it. A lot of Jimmy Carter, in his second career, I guess, if you will, after he was president, he was with Habitat for Humanity, and he was still like teaching Sunday school every week in Plains. It was really an inspiring story. And he lived, it was 99, wasn't he, or 100? He was very close. And they were married at least 70 years, wasn't it? Or it was some incredible number. Yeah.
Yeah, they were so kind to come on the local television show, but they did it frequently to talk about their causes.
Yeah.
And of course the center there, the Carter Center is in Atlanta. But that was great meeting them, and then all kinds of stars. But I will say, you want to know, this is so fun because Adam West came on.
Oh, and Batman.
Okay. And so I brought in my Batman DVD and I asked him if he would sign it, and he did. So I have.
So there's that.
I know.
What was Adam West really like?
You know what? He came on to talk about prostate cancer prevention. That's why he came on the show, okay? And it quickly just devolved. I mean, we hit that and then we're moving on. Yeah. And he was so funny and so handsome. I mean, still, and just, it was a blast.
Yeah, he was doing spots for MeTV or Comedy Central, or whoever was running Batman, the series. This has been a few years back. And it seemed like he'd finally just decided to go tongue-in-cheek and just embrace it. Because I'd also read an article, it's been years ago, that Adam West had said the lowest point in his career, he was guest ringmaster at a circus in Evansville, Indiana, which we both have probably done at some point, in our life. And yet, he now embraces the Batman thing. I think at the time, this would have been late 60s, early 70s, he probably was still trying to have a career outside of Batman.
Yeah.
But he was really, really typecast. I mean, you never saw him in anything, other than a callback to Batman. So
that's like the Wicked Witch. She said she just couldn't get anything after that except the, was it a butter parquet or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right. I thought she did coffee.
Maybe it was coffee.
Yeah, Mrs. Olson or something like
that.
But
she had a hard time, too, because when you do something iconic like that, it's very hard for people to see you any other way.
But the fact that you got to do something iconic, I guess that's cold comfort, to Gilligan, Bob Denver, but
Gilligan.
That's interesting that you got to meet Adam West. Was he driving a Batmobile at the time?
He was
or?
not.
Oh, rats.
And then I was also probably just as thrilled. I mean, it's not all about who I've met, but these people stand out to me because they were nice people. They were generous people. I've met some people that were not.
Sure. There were several around,
but Chris Pine came on, and that's when Star Trek, the reimagining of Star Trek, and he came on and he had told the segment producers, no interviews, no signing autographs, no nothing other than this.
Wow.
Well, okay, so I had already, before I realized that, brought in my DVD of Star Trek.
You have quite a DVD collection back there, don't you?
Actually, I went into that movie expecting to hate it because I love the original series so much. And then I actually loved it so much because they changed it in a way that made it okay.
Right. It was still on brand, and yet it was completely different. Yeah.
So I said, oh, well, I've got my DVD. That's fine. And then the segment producer went up to him and said, she brought this in. Is it okay? And he went, oh, absolutely. I just meant I couldn't sign any autographs at the gate or out the door.
Oh, but for the inside people,
I'm all
yours.
And so, I mean, sorry, I know that makes me sound privileged, but I was inside the door. And so he did sign it, but there again, he's very tall.
So now you're looking up his
with
nose.
Those icy blue eyes. But that was also very nice of him. And my point is that some people came on and just couldn't have been nicer and more generous with their time and wanted to be there. And other people, it seemed like a chore, and they couldn't wait to get out.
One more thing, right, that they had to do on that day's checklist. That is really wild that you've done all this stuff here.
Oh, but you know what you would be interested in?
What's that?
You're going to have to go to work soon. I'll keep you all day.
I know. They actually need the studio in about 20 minutes.
Okay, anyway. So I'll tell you this, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
But I don't know if you remember, in Atlanta, they called it the storm of the century. It was actually
that,
the storm.
1993. Yeah.
Well, this one was after. This is the flood.
Oh.
And this one, I'm trying to remember the exact year. We had two major weather situations in Atlanta. One was an ice storm.
That's right.
And the other one was the flood. But the flood, I worked early morning, of course, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it had been raining for hours and hours and hours, and I knew that something was not going to be right with that. You can't rain that hard, that long. So I called in. They said, yeah, we need you in now. So I got in the car, and I tried to get to work. And at that point, I lived on a ridge outside Atlanta. And
no problem for you till you go off the ridge, right?
Right. So I'm trying to get down to the highway. And at one point, all I could see were the flashing lights of a police car underwater. And then I said, okay, back up. I go down another way, and I saw a car had actually been lifted up by the water and was in a tree. And I said, okay, that won't work. There was one other choice, and I tried it. I managed it, but the water was up to the hubcaps. So if this doesn't work, I'm going home. So I didn't get home for a week after that. But the storm had dumped so much water that there was a school on the west side that was up to the rooftop. And the bridges had to be re-inspected because of the water.
Yeah,
all of that was happening. And so that was a week-long stay, sleep in the station, never go home situation.
Right, wearing your same clothes and eating the same Pop-Tarts or whatever they could hustle in there. That might have been in 96. Or no, the Olympics were 96.
After that.
I remember the storm of the century, but I can't remember the year. And I do remember that aspect of it, the flood. Was it tied to a tropical system, or it must have been?
Yeah.
I mean, had to have been to get that kind of rainfall.
And then the ice storm, when the tractor trailers, because they got stalled in traffic, the tires froze to the interstate.
And so they're not going anywhere
so
now.
They stayed.
Right.
Yeah, they couldn't move. They were trying to chip them out. They couldn't. It was so. Some spectacular weather.
Yes, and Atlanta's kind of in that awful zone where they can't really handle winter weather, and yet they get just enough that it really bollockses up the works. And then, of course, they're in the tropical belt, too, so you get hurricane impacts there, too. And so much goes on in Atlanta. You know, I mean, with the airport and all, that's kind of a key city in the United States, and yet they get weather that, really shuts everything down.
But you and I've seen a lot of weather right here.
We have. Yes, we have. And, fortunately not the storm of the century or the, flood of the century, but we had our share too. So it has been interesting for me, maybe not quite as colorful as your description of it all. And now I really do have to go because I got the next show coming in. Cheryl, I really appreciate you coming up and bringing us up to date. I had a couple people, I mentioned your name, and they said, well, whatever happened to Cheryl? I said, I asked the same question. And full disclosure, your nephew works here at the station.
He does.
And he just dropped your name one day. And I said, oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
And so I said, well, we got to get her on. So
we kept broadcasting in the family.
Yes, that sounds like
I moved back about 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so welcome back. And
thank you.
Hope you stay, and no more storms of the century for you. And I want a paddle boat race. Next time it happens, we'll do a little competition, okay?
I'm up for it.
Cheryl White, thank you so thank you so much for being on Inside Look
with you.
I'm Jeff Lyons. If you'd like to listen to all of our podcasts, you can do that wherever you get your podcast. Also, check out our companion podcasts. They're growing like bunnies around here.
Okay.
We have What's the Trend with Aaron Weeks and Casey Mason. That runs every Friday. You can also watch on the YouTube channel. For Inside Look and Cheryl White, I'm Jeff Lyons. Thanks for joining.